Hello, welcome to Newscentre with me, Parikshit Luthra. Focus today on Indo-American trade and commerce ties. At the U.S.-India Business Council's India-Idea Summit, we caught up with Myron Brilliant, the Vice President of the U.S. Chambers of Commerce. He stressed on the importance of both nations coming to an agreement on digital standards and cross-border data flows. Brilliant added that all American companies are looking at India as a market which can deliver 7% growth and has a lot of potential in advanced manufacturing capabilities amid geopolitical risks related to China and the Ukraine-Russia war as well. I began by asking him about the road ahead for the India-U.S. trade deal. Let's listen in.
We had almost reached a mini trade deal towards the end of the Trump administration. What happened to that? As a chamber, are you still pushing for an India-U.S. FTA?
Well, honestly, I'd love to see the United States really back in the game on trade, period. We've been supportive of the U.S. administration's initiative around IPAF, and I think this Indo-Pacific economic framework is one that India and the United States need to work together on. We are obviously critically important is the U.S.-India relationship at large. I think there is an opportunity to make progress, whether it's in the digital space or in advanced manufacturing, dealing with services, dealing with a lot of other issues, ag. How we get there, whether it's piecemeal approach or making progress through ultimately a more comprehensive trade agreement, that's the goal. But short term, let's make progress in these really important areas like digital rules. Let's make sure we're moving on services more generally. And let's make sure we move some of those irritants on both sides. This needs to be a win-win for India and the United States. Too much is on the table, and we need to make progress.
Right. When you speak about the priorities, when you speak about digital trade, when you speak about services, exports, what, according to you, should be the near-term priority? You said that this can be addressed as a long-term package or on a piecemeal basis, but what, according to you, should be the immediate priority?
Well, that's a very good question. I think there are two areas. First, I think the United States and India need to continue making progress through the Trade Policy Forum, the TPF, and they're going to be another ministerial this fall. And there, that's dealing with agriculture and services and innovation agenda, tariffs and non-tariff barriers. That's very important. The second piece, of course, is to really push forward on a digital understanding between the two countries. And that means looking at technical standards. It means looking at cross-border data flows. These are really critical pieces that can be part of a more comprehensive digital trade agreement. And if I were to add a third element, it's making sure the United States and India are partners through the IPAF. There's work to be done, but we have to work bilaterally to make sure that regional initiative also moves forward.
Right. The irritants in the relationship that you mentioned that we need to do away with, what would those be?
Well, look, this is a time of great geopolitical uncertainty. We know all the reasons for that. We know we're coming still out of the pandemic, and India was hit so hard, as was the United States. Its economy suffered, and I think about all the people who lost their lives in India. Okay, we've come back from that, and India's come back in a very significant way with 7% growth this year. But we have challenges, geopolitical challenges. But India is in a region of instability, but India is not unstable. India is very stable and has strong political leadership. This is a time for India and the United States to put aside some of their irritants, work through those issues, and think in terms of the broader geostrategic significance of building this relationship. That's why working together through the Quad. That's why working together through IPAF. That's why thinking through a more enhanced economic partnership. And I would add to that, just looking at areas like advanced manufacturing. How do we advance India's own aspirations? Well, U.S. companies want to be here. Just last week, Brad Smith from Microsoft was here talking about how we advance digital rules. U.S. companies are here as part of our U.S.-India Business Council because they see India's strategic growth as a priority for them in terms of their global outlook.
Right. Also to ask you, in India right now, there is a lot of debate about the use of data by big tech companies, by large e-commerce giants. Is this something that you are talking to the Indian government also about, maybe expressing your concerns about as well?
Well, this is a priority issue, right? The United States, Europe, Australia, Japan, and India are major players in the digital space. You look at India's IT community, and you think about how India's economic growth has been through services. Not only agriculture and manufacturing play a role, but services has driven a lot of that growth. You think about the U.S. economy. We're a service-oriented economy as well. Again, we have manufacturing, ag, and other areas of our economy. But services is such a critical part. E-commerce, and I saw the comments from the Commerce Minister in the newspapers reporting out that, you know, the U.S.-India governments have an opportunity here because the Indian government recognizes the importance of moving ahead in trade policy and e-commerce, right? Part of that has to be in the digital space. We have to work together, okay? India has its sovereign nation, its own goals. The United States has a sovereign nation, its own goals. But we're not going to get together in a global community and advance digital trade if we don't work together. Everyone wins when we work together. That means the Europeans, it means the Japanese, it means the Australians, it means the Indian government, it means the U.S. government. A lot of work to be done, but there is a path forward, and there is down the road, I think, a digital agreement with India and the United States as two critical partners.
All right, so you're saying that there has to be consensus on digital trade and how we monitor and approach the use of data.
But yes, and how we do it is through advancing the right technical standards and advancing areas like cross-border data flows. This is an ongoing issue to be worked through. But I think if India gets it right, the United States gets it right, if Europe gets it right, and we're working together, that's going to enhance and really magnify global commerce. You already see a great expansion here in India's economy, but beyond just thinking about it from a domestic standpoint, think about it from a global standpoint and how India companies want to go global. And we know that already, right? And so more opportunities not just for large companies, for small and medium-sized enterprises that have to be a vibrant part of India's growing economy, as they are in the United States.
Okay. I'd also like to ask you about companies which want to shift base out of China, have a China plus one strategy. How important is the Indian market, and how do you see U.S. companies moving supply chains to India? We've seen Apple moving part of its supply chain to India for manufacturing its iPhone. Do you see more companies following suit?
Well, I think all companies are looking at the geopolitical risks associated with China and Taiwan. The flare-up there has caused some companies to think about rethinking their policies. And of course, China's policies around data and other areas has also caused U.S. companies to rethink it. It's not just U.S. companies, European companies and others as well. No question, also the conflict in Russia has also, 1,000 U.S. companies have pulled out of the Russian market. So they're looking for alternative markets. Where can you find growth at 7%? Where can you see a growing digital economy? Where can you see advanced manufacturing capabilities? India is that potential place. There are things that India is doing right now with its agenda that is making it more attractive. There's still work to be done in this country, and I think the Indian government understands that and is trying to do that. But I think the potential for more companies to diversify away from, say, China into markets like India is available. But India has such an advantage with high-skilled labor. Think about the engineers coming out of this country, the software developers. There's a lot here to be attracted to, and I think U.S. companies are taking a look at it. We hope we can deal with some of the draconian rules of trade and some other areas of concern. We want to be a partner to India. We're not telling India what to do. We're trying to encourage there to be an ecosystem that allows U.S. companies to make the investments. And by the way, those investments mean hiring Indian people. And you know what U.S. companies do. They hire India people and they pay them good money. And by the way, that's called smart business. And so I'm very excited by the future of India, and I'm excited by the future of U.S. investment in India.
Right. So some of those market access barriers, the draconian rules that you spoke about, which are some of those reforms that are needed, some issues that you see which really come in the way of doing business with India?
Well, I mean, we talk about the ease of doing business. There's still too much red tape in the market, right? There are still questions about the future of the health sector. There's still work to be done around data protection. There are areas of India. By the way, our country has rules that we don't always like. The U.S. Chamber is the largest business organization, not just in the United States, but globally. And I can assure you, we're telling our own government, where's our trade policy, right? We have things to do in our own country, right? Around immigration, around trade policy, right? Making sense of the environment and how we improve climate. And I think India has also its own challenges. And again, the United States Chamber of Commerce through our U.S.-India Business Council sees itself as a partner We're here to be a partner in the process of helping and encouraging the reform progress that's underway already in India.
All right, so that was Myron Brilliant saying that India is a big alternative, big opportunity for U.S. companies wanting to shift out of China. But at the same time, there are irritants in the relationship which must be done away with. Also, we caught up with the Vice President of Nasdaq, also the chairman, the interim chairman of the U.S.-India Business Council Board of Directors. He said Nasdaq is cautiously optimistic about Indian companies being allowed to go for their primary listing in the United States. They are also looking for some sort of collaboration with the International Financial Services Center in Gift City. Listen in to that conversation.
One of the priorities that were mentioned was creating a startup to unicorn pipeline in collaboration with India. What exactly do you have in mind here?
Well, first of all, India already has that pipeline. It has over 260 unicorns that are ready at some point to go public. The culture of entrepreneurship and much of the ecosystem you need to take these companies public is there. We want to work with the Indian government about how to facilitate access to the global capital markets and the global investor. There is a great need for capital in India right now to fund the growth you need to create 12 million new jobs, which you need every year, to continue to work on your infrastructure and other things. And the United States business community wants to be part of that growth, and we want to help facilitate that capital formation.
Right. Any key terms of agreement that you may have in mind for this plan that you envisage?
Well, the budget of the government already highlights the need to encourage private equity and joint venture capital. We want to work with the government about how to do that and provide exits for that capital. The investors don't come together in venture capital and private equity until they find a way of exiting their investment. The public capital markets is a key part of that, and having the global investor be part of that creates higher valuations and more liquidity that can be used and recycled in the economy in so many ways. So we're going to be working with the government and business leaders, something NASDAQ knows very well about creating an ecosystem for capital formation and entrepreneurship.
Right. Now, when it comes to market access for U.S. companies in the Indian stock market and Indian companies in the U.S. stock market, any key issues that you would like to work with the Indian government or the Indian stock exchanges with?
Well, I think you need to take a step back. What is in the best interest of the Indian government and Indian citizens? And it is getting full value for their entrepreneurship, their innovation, and other countries looking for that, like China, Canada, Israel, the Nordic states, Singapore. They all allow their companies to initially list in the United States. Why? Not to help NASDAQ. They do it because we can help them get access to the global investor and to U.S. investors. And that capital which we help raise then is cycled back to their countries and used in their economies. So we think India should allow the same thing and to facilitate the initial listing of public companies in the United States.
Right. But has there been any kind of headway in those negotiations or talks, primary listing in the United States?
We have had productive calls with discussions with the finance ministry and others. I think their intention is to look at this. They're being careful, but they've talked about liberalizing their economy in this way and their capital markets. They're going to do it in a way that protects their investors and their interests. We understand that, but we think we can find a path.
Right. But do you feel that there will be some sort of conclusion on that this year?
Well, we will talk to the finance minister tomorrow and we'll hear what she has to say. But we're cautiously optimistic, let's say.
Okay. I'd also like to ask you about the performance of tech stocks. We've seen how tech stocks have been under pressure, India and globally as well. What's the mood around the tech sector in the United States and the trajectory of the performance of some of these tech stocks?
Well, as one expert has said, we're living in the age of uncertainty. There's much uncertainty about the economy, about international world affairs, about tensions in the world, of course, in the Ukraine and elsewhere, and that has caused investors to take a step back. But at the core, technology is synonymous with economic growth. Technological innovation creates jobs. That will not change, and we are still very optimistic about the technology sector. We have 250 companies in Nasdaq's pipeline wanting to go public. We think we'll start to see that open up in the fourth quarter, perhaps next year. And of course, many of those companies are technology companies. But the fact that technology is so closely associated with economic growth and job creation, we think is still there, and it's fundamental.
All right. So the important message there coming from the Vice President of Nasdaq, that they will be holding consultations with the Finance Minister on the possibility of Indian companies initially listing in the United States. We leave it there for the moment, but we'll take a break. And when we're back, we will talk about Liz Truss winning the Tory leadership battle. Is United Kingdom's new Prime Minister, and also what will be her key challenges? Also, what does Truss's Prime Ministership mean for India-UK ties? We will discuss all of that and much more with Richard Pattle of True Beacon. Don't go anywhere.
I will deliver a bold plan to cut taxes and grow our economy. I will deliver on the energy crisis, dealing with people's energy bills, but also dealing with the long-term issues we have on energy supply. We will deliver a great victory for the Conservative Party in 2024.
My fellow Conservatives, it's time for politics to be over, folks. It's time for us all to get behind Liz Truss and her team and her programme and deliver for the people of this country. Let me say that I am now like one of those booster rockets that has fulfilled its function, and I will now be gently re-entering the atmosphere and splashing down invisibly in some remote and obscure corner of the Pacific.
All right, so the UK Conservative Party has chosen the Prime Minister of the UK, the fourth Conservative Prime Minister in 6 years and the third woman to head the UK government. Liz Truss's ascendancy to the top post comes at a crucial time. The nation is facing crisis on several fronts, from higher cost of living to rising energy costs to industrial unrest. There are several challenges for the UK economy. The Indian government can, however, expect the India-UK FTA talks to be expedited. It was Truss who had signed off on the India-UK enhanced trade partnership when she was Foreign Secretary. Let me go across to Richard Pattle, who is co-founder and CEO of True Beacon. He is with me now on the program. Richard, what does the Prime Ministership of Liz Truss mean for the UK at this juncture?
Well, a very good afternoon, Parikshit, and thank you for having me on your show. As you rightly have alluded to, it's not just the domestic challenges that the UK finds itself facing, everything from inflation that is running at a 40-year high, well into double digits, set to accelerate, energy, not just in terms of feeding into inflation, but energy security. We have, strikes starting back in the UK. This is quite reminiscent of what happened in the early 80s, and that inflation, that cost of living crisis needs to be dealt with. And so not just domestically is Liz Truss having to face these, but also, of course, there are very considerable foreign policy challenges, not least in Ukraine and indeed emanating out of China. So I think she will be mindful to continue the work of Boris Johnson, attacking those both domestic and foreign policy issues. But of course, the last 2 months have been a tremendous diversion from the British government's focus on tackling those. A leadership campaign, doesn't matter where you are in the world, of course means that the continuity of government and its focus on those key policies has a pause. And I'm afraid that has been a byproduct of this leadership election.
Right. Also, Richard, give us a sense of how companies like yours are seeing her plan? She has said that she will deliver a bold plan to cut taxes, to deal with the energy crisis, bring down people's energy bills as well, tackle the other issues facing the economy head on. Do you see a fine print yet? And is there a certain apprehension as to what cost will that be for the US economy as well?
Well, the UK economy, I think now...
For the UK economy?
The UK economy, I think even the most optimistic people in the world would admit that it's got a real chance of slipping into recession later on this year, and she needs to deal with that. But listen, I'm a British national, but I'm now living and operating down here in Bangalore. I've been travelling to India for the last 30 years or so. I think that what Britain is needing to do and turning now towards foreign policy is not just focus on the short-term domestic needs of the UK. And Liz Truss mentioned that general election, which is looming in 2 years, and should be very focused on that, of course, but also not to take her eye off the ball internationally. And India, of course, is really key to Britain becoming more international in a post-Brexit world.
Right. And talking about India, the importance of the FTA, everyone has said that Liz Truss and the UK will be desperate to have that FTA. She would like to show a victory, both politically and economically, to her electorate as well. What are some of the deliverables, some of the key takeaways that she would expect and the UK government would expect from the FTA?
Yeah, well, we have to bear in mind now that given where the UK is right now, given all of the headwinds that the country faces, Britain needs India. India is not only a market, it's a very attractive market for the UK, but also, of course, strategically, geopolitically, India is absolutely crucial as we have seen the balance of power around the world shift. So the UK, like many other countries around the world, absolutely needs India. The demonstration of the signing of the free trade agreement, I think, will be very symbolic for Liz Truss. I think that obviously as Trade Secretary and as Foreign Secretary, she's visited India, helped develop this. That's very important that it has her her fingerprints all over it. She will be keen to deliver it, whether it's by Diwali, as we all hope, or whether it's by the end of the year. But ultimately, she will try to make sure that we either diminish or reduce tariffs across a wide range of goods and services, but it needs to work, of course, just as much for India as it does for the UK. So that is a difficult balancing act. Obviously, we've had the 5th round of negotiations here. Those will continue. I'm sure the diplomatic challenges will remain to get this document sealed. But lastly, of course, this isn't just about delivering a free trade agreement covering a range of goods and services. This is part of the 2030 roadmap. And that, I have to say, is even more important to the UK. And that really is about strengthening all of those diplomatic, military, governmental ties, the institutional collaboration that is required. What's India going to get out of it as well? That's possibly a little harder to answer, but no doubt, for India, there are elements of collaboration across science, technology, healthcare, education as well, that are attractive to India. So I think it's in both sides' interest to get something signed, but not just to leave it as a free trade agreement. It's something broader, it's something long-term, and be in no doubt that Britain needs India exactly now at this moment.
Right. And my final question would be about India overtaking the UK to become the 5th largest economy. Do you think this gap is set to widen? And we're also getting news now that Liz Truss is expected to freeze household energy bills at around £2,500. So how do you see this announcement coming in?
Yeah, I mean, domestically, I have family back in the UK, of course, and many friends. This it's an unprecedented crisis of cost of living, not least for some of the most vulnerable in society back in the UK, old age pensioners who have seen their energy bills spiral out of control, families and so on. And families are making very hard choices now about energy and heating as we go into the winter, of course, and will do. So I think it was largely predictable that Liz Truss would have to demonstrate her commitment to helping British society deal with it. So I think that was expected to a degree. Just in terms of GDP, listen, you don't have to tell me, living here, working here, having seen the amazing transformation of this economy and the exciting chapter that will unfold over the next 10 or 15 years about where India will go. The trajectory is absolutely unmistakable. The GDP, of course, India will, whether you think it's going to be in 10 years, 20 years, even if you're most pessimistic, more so, will be the third largest economy in the world, eventually the second largest economy in the world. And that is now undeniable. But I think that these are, a league table in terms of economic clout, if you like, around the world. I think that what is equally as important, as I've alluded to before, is where India intervenes globally. And that might be through the big institutions that obviously India is part of, that play a role in global security, in global trade. And I think as India progresses, she will become far more dominant on the world stage. That is a good thing, not just for the UK, but for democracies around the world, as this is now obviously the greatest democracy globally and also the most populous country on the planet.
All right, we've run out of time, but Richard Pattle, thank you so much for joining us here on Newscentre, giving us your view on the new Prime Minister, new cabinet that we are seeing in the UK now and the implications for India-UK ties. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Newscentre. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.